Hello again, my fellow students of history. How you doing? You and I are engaged in a period right now that was extremely revolutionary and in so many ways. But you got to remember, this has been going on for a long time. When you look at the study of ancient China, the Chinese for centuries have considered concepts like the dynastic cycle and the mandate of heaven. Basically, the dynastic cycle says governments and empires and leaders are kind of like human beings in the sense that they go through an aging process. They go through a period of youth and vibrance and high energy and development and growth, physically and intellectually and spiritually. They eventually reach a peak and they become incredibly productive and efficient. And at this level, a government is highly concerned with doing its job relating to the people that it governs. But the theory is that at some point, these empires, these leaders, these governments lose their sense of direction and become more involved in what benefits them as compared to the people that they rule. This sort of thing isn't confined to one part of the world or one culture. Right now, you and I have been looking at Europe and North America, but we need to extend that a little bit further. In 1776, as we all know, the United States declared its independence from England and won it through a military struggle, but they couldn't have done it without French support. And the French, when they lent that support to the United States, were doing it for their own reasons. I mean, it wasn't like they were in agreement with the philosophies expressed in the Declaration of Independence. Louis XVI, an absolute monarch, certainly wouldn't have done that. They backed us primarily, this is my belief, but I'm not alone in this, because of the losses they had suffered in the 7 Years' War, which ended in 1763, according to the Treaty of Paris signed that year. They lost a lot in terms of money, in terms of blood, in terms of resources and land and colonies, much of which went to England, a lot of which went to Spain. Well, the French, I think, saw the American Revolution as an opportunity to regain some of what had been lost. That revolution worked out well for the United States. The United States gained its independence, and they paid a high price to do it. But the United States, when it gained its independence, there isn't much there that's gained in the Treaty of Paris 1783 as far as France is concerned. And France found itself in a very dire financial situation. They were deep in debt, partially because of the support they'd given to the United States, partially because of the spending habits of the royal family. And oftentimes, Louis XVI's wife, Marie Antoinette, is pointed out as a major player in that scenario. Any woman that is given the nickname Madame Deficit has a bit of a negative perception in a large part of the population. In the 1780s, France was in bad shape financially. And Louis XVI, because of this, was forced to do something he didn't want to do. He convened something called the Estates General. The structure of the Estates General, as compared to what most Americans are familiar with, is kind of interesting. The population of France was divided into three categories: a first estate, a second estate, and a third estate. The first estate was basically the clergy. They made up a very small segment of the population. The second estate was the nobility. They made up a slightly larger portion of the population, but between the two of them, they probably didn't account for more than 3% of the total. The third estate accounted for everyone else, about 97%. Now, when Louis XVI called the Estates General together, it was because he was forced to ask for a higher revenue base. He was going to have to hike taxes. And under the rules of the Estates General then established, the First and Second Estate enjoyed certain privileges regarding taxes. The Third Estate did not. Third Estate wasn't happy about that, understandably. So the Third Estate, when this meeting begins, is very concerned about how the votes will be cast and how these taxes will be levied. The First and Second Estate are concerned about the fears expressed by the Third. To oversimplify, these three estates could not find common ground, to the point where the members of the First and Second Estates delegations locked the Third Estate's representatives out. That was crucial. And it leads to something called the Tennis Court Oath. Now, from the Tennis Court Oath, there's a sequence of events that we need to keep in mind, and it's all very tight. After the Tennis Court Oath is signed, you will see a set of reasons assembled to justify the revolution. And these carry a beautiful name: the Declaration of the Rights of Man and Citizen. But you guys already know about that. And you know about the Declaration of Independence in the United States. And you know about the Declaration of Independence in Haiti. But France deserves a little bit more attention. Here's what you need to do. There's a group in France called the Jacobins, Jacobins. They are crucial to your understanding of the French Revolution. Three names you can align with that group. One is Robespierre, another is Danton, and a third is Marat. That's a very short list, and there's a lot more to that group than just those three names, but these three come up often. The next time you and I get together, let's talk about those names and see what events led to what is often regarded as a horrific period. I mean, the name of the period indicates that. There's a period in France called the Reign of Terror. And historically speaking, this is a period that can show you just how extreme revolutionary movements can become. We've got a lot to talk about. I look forward to seeing you the next time that we meet. Take care now.